Well, welcome everyone to TMI Advice You Didn't Want, where we are talking all about spiritual awakenings. What else are we talking about? Meditation, transmutation, all the information of what's going on in this world right now and what it means for us. I am one of your hosts. I am Karin Angelly, and we're just going to be having a lot of fun talking about all kinds of stuff. And it may be, like I said, it may be advice you didn't want. And maybe you're like, hey, this is fun. I want to tune in. I want to hear more. But at the end of the day, we're here just because we want to have fun and we want to talk about what we feel like actually matters in today's world. So I'm here with my friend.
Hey, I'm Ashley. And yes, I think that the TMI is the best thing about it is that it's too much information, but it's all the good stuff that people don't always talk about. And it's all the stuff that we think is really important. So I'm definitely excited to dive in.
Yeah. And today, I feel like I've been on a spiritual high because I just came back from a Dr. Joe Dispenza meditation advanced follow up retreat. So a lot of people just go to the week long, which is a 7-day retreat. The advanced follow up is his event that he does for people that have already been to a week long that are doing the work. And so you go to these events, and normally on a week long, you kind of have to build the energy in the room because people are still trying to wrap their brain around, do I meditate? Does this work? Is this a thing? And as the week builds, people start to be like, oh my God, this fucking works. But when you go to an advanced follow up, it is off the charts because people do not need to be convinced that this works because they already have seen it in their life. And so you jump into meditation right away, and it's literally like bam pow, like somebody just smacked me over the face right now with holy crap, there's so much energy in this room.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know, I can't fully explain all of the things that happened in my brain during this experience. I know I'm still integrating, but some of the things that he did this time were completely different than he's ever tried before. And he did this on a smaller scale with a smaller group of people. I believe it was August this year. He did this with a group of 150 people because he wanted to see if what he was planning on doing would be effective or not. So one thing that Dr. Joe does, if you've ever been to any of his meditation retreats, is he has something called a kaleidoscope, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Like when you're a kid and you look into that little thing that you
Yeah.
twist. That is the kaleidoscope that I'm talking about, and it creates these geometric patterns that he has you stare at. It's basically hypnotism, let's be
Yeah.
honest. But he did that more this event than he's ever done.
Hmm.
And the thing that was super fascinating is that, and he's been doing a lot of research on this. That's the reason that he started testing it to see if it would work. He actually started showing us molecules that your brain already creates. So things like melatonin,
Hmm.
serotonin, DMT. Okay, guys, DMT, if you don't know what DMT is, you have a real good time with DMT. Let's just say that. Hallucinogenic, and he is literally showing you
Yeah.
these different molecules as you're looking at the kaleidoscope. He bleeds in these different molecules of these different things, and when you're looking at it, you're like, holy shit, I think I'm really happy right now. All
And
I
so
can
he's playing this on a big projection kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like imagine you're in just a regular ballroom for any event, and he has these big projectors. There were 5 in front of us, right? So in one of the places that we sat, it was like surround sound. I felt like the kaleidoscope was coming into my world. And at one point it started being like 3D, which is like, okay, I got
Oh,
this going
wow.
on. Yeah. Weird stuff. Weird. But then one thing that me and my friends, so I went with my husband and 2 of my friends. One thing that happened with me and one of my other friends is after this experience, we could not stop laughing. There was nothing happening. Things were not funny. We were eating breakfast like normal people do, but we were doing things that not normal people do. We literally were like, this is not funny, but I don't care. I want to laugh so bad. And
That's so funny.
yeah, like it's like the bliss of
Mhm.
this is how life is supposed to be. And
Yeah.
she said during one of the meditations, she was like, "Oh my God, isn't it amazing to be a human?" And then that made her start laughing in her meditation. And
Oh,
it's just
wow.
like this is
Hmm.
what life is about.
Yeah,
Not all the
definitely.
other stuff that happens for us. It's the
Yeah.
realization of, oh my God, isn't it awesome to be a human right now? Isn't it cool to be alive? Like,
Hmm.
it's just some of the stuff that you experience at these events are just completely mind blowing, and you can't put words to them either. There's
Yeah.
no way you can put words to the experience that you have. And then one other thing that I want to kind of like touch on that he always does too, but this one was so special because of the person that we healed during this event. So each event he has this during the 7 day event and during the advanced follow up, he has things called coherence healings, right? So you have people that sign up before the event and say, hey, I want a coherence healing, and you get it or you don't get it. It's
Yeah.
just one of those like random process of like you get it or you don't get it. Like it's put
Yeah.
through a computer and you're chosen randomly.
Hmm.
So this girl that was our Healy on the very last day, it was the very last meditation. Um, she was very special. Okay. So I see things for a lot of people when we do coherence healings. I do a lot of coherence healings actually on a regular basis, and I see things a lot. But this one was incredibly special because as it was happening, there was a lot of energy in the room, and you can feel the energy, like it's palpable. Like it's just like if I
Hmm.
was touching you kind of energy.
Yeah.
And during this girl's healing, I saw there was this big blue being that came up out of the floor, and he was like he that's the energy that I experienced. Like I don't really know, like they don't really have that kind of like genital area whatever, but it was like that masculine energy that I was feeling, and that's what I mean by that. But he had his arms out and he had a regular face, but he also had a big, like a very large eyeball on the center of his forehead, right? And he had
Hmm.
his hands around her. And
Hmm.
between his hands, there were these big lightning bolts going back and forth inside of her. And then there were other blue beings as well that had their hands on her everywhere and just everywhere kind of thing. And so she comes out of it, and she's kind of like convulsing because there was a lot of energy. And when as she comes out, she was just like, oh my God, I gotta tell you my experience, guys. And so she starts sharing what she saw. Or no, it might have been me that started sharing what I saw. And she was like, oh my God, this is nuts. That's what I saw. And she's like, yesterday I was like, questioning myself if what I saw was actually what I saw, and I had to go talk to somebody because I felt like I was going nuts. And she's like, oh my God, she looked at me and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe that you're telling me that this is what you saw too. And when she came out of the healing, she
Hmm.
sat up and she's like, oh my God, I'm healed, and everybody in this circle is healed, everybody. And we were all like, oh my God, we're just like, oh, it's so beautiful, like we're just having just this amazing moment.
Yeah.
And um one really special experience with her is she went and she just like very lovey, wants to connect kind of person, hugged everyone. But then when she came to me, and we had that dialogue back and forth, she kind of clung onto my leg for a while, which I was like, oh, so sweet, like just kind of like hugging her, and she's crying and she's just having like her moment.
Hmm.
Looked up at me and she said, do you know who you're hugging right now? As she's clinging onto my leg like a little 5-year-old would. But she wasn't 5. She was like 20s, 30s, I don't know. But as she's clinging onto me, she's looking up at me. She's like, "Do you know who you're hugging right now?" And I looked at her and I was like, "God, source, the universe." And she was like, "Well, yeah, but do you know that you're hugging that 7-year-old girl that was molested?" And I let
Hmm.
her go finally during that healing. And I just lost it. I was like, "Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God." Like we walk past people all day long. We judge
Hmm.
people. We think all kinds of things about people, but we don't really know what's
Yeah.
going on in their world. You would never know by looking at her that this was her experience. We
Yeah.
just don't know who we're coming in contact every
Hmm.
single day with. And it just like, I lost it because I was like, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful."
Aw,
But
that's a
just
beautiful
like,
story.
no, but just her like having that moment where she's like, "I let her go. I love
Hmm.
her and I let her go."
Hmm.
Now it's just like such a healing experience for her. So
And so was that what she was trying to heal, or was there like a physical ailment or something like that that she was trying to heal?
I have a feeling there was a physical ailment attached to it, but I don't know. We don't know when we're healing people. We don't always
Mhm.
know unless um so I do coherence healings on a daily basis as well, and they're over Zoom calls. And the only way we know what somebody's dealing with is if in their intention, in their write up that they say, that they're dealing with, they want to be cancer free. Like they say things like, "I am cancer free," or have some sort of affirmation like that as their intention.
Yeah.
That's the only time I really know what somebody's actually dealing with. But I have a feeling that there was some sort of physical something connected to it as well. But you can't always know with that. Like it's just one of those things that you just, yeah, it's there's some wild things that happen during
Mhm.
those kind of healings because there's so much energy in the room, and those blue beings generally visit during those healings
Mm.
because there's so much energy and they actually can finally connect with us. They actually,
Mhm.
I mean, one of the things that like Dr. Joe talks about all the time is these blue beings will actually visit if we can raise our vibration high enough to a level of
Mhm.
love, bliss, gratitude, whatever those high vibrational things are. If we can raise the room to this level, they can meet us, but they can't go too far because that's just not in their nature. They can't come all the way down into density. So,
Mhm.
and
And so what does he say they are? Like, what
I,
are the blue beings?
the blue beings are literally like they're, how do you explain what they are? Oh my God, I've seen them a few times and I've interacted with them a few times.
Yeah.
But they are what's funny is I saw a starseed child talking about the blue beings on Instagram the other day, and I can't remember what specifically he said anymore, but they're these higher vibrational beings that are here to help raise the energy of the planet because that's where we are right now. We're in a place where it's like there's so much density, there's so much lower vibrational energy, and it's time for Earth to let that go. And so
Mhm.
those beings are here to help raise the vibration, and they're the first beings that are here. There are others that are coming, but they're the first ones that are here to help raise the vibration of this planet. So, and there's different levels of them. There are some that are really big, like the one that I saw. I know Dr. Joe has
Mhm.
talked about ones that will stand in the room while he's giving his explanations for things. He'll see them standing on in the corners of the room because that vibrational energy is high enough and they can actually interact in that space. And so, and
Mm.
he's at the point where he can see them just naturally. I can't see them naturally yet. I can only see them in meditation, but something I'm working on.
That's cool. Yeah. Interesting. And so does he say what the reason is that they want to help raise the vibration of Earth?
I mean, the whole point is like we've talked about before, Ashley, like this is the time for Earth to get its act in play, basically. Like
Yeah.
it's time for us to release things that aren't serving us anymore. And what they want to help get us on the same playing field as other parts of the universe as well. So, and he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't go into specifics because that's not what he's there for. But I
Yeah.
know a lot of people that have also interacted with them. Some of the most wild stories you would could ever hear of people meeting these beings, and whether they're your guardians, whether they're your spirit guides, whether they're whatever you want to call them, I think
Yeah.
that they're a part of that as well, but there are
Mm-hmm.
also ones that are not necessarily assigned to someone also. So
Yeah,
that's
for
just
sure.
what I've experienced. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. I'm just seeing what I'm seeing.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's interesting.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a wild ride, honestly. And one thing that you and I have talked about, Ashley, since I came back, is I keep seeing sevens
Mm-hmm.
everywhere, right? Like, and seven in numerology is that reminder to keep your heart open and
Mm-hmm.
continue to trust the process, right? And that you're on the right path, and this is where, like, this is where you need to be. So, it's just confirmation that everything that I'm doing in my life right now, like, okay, keep going. Because
Mm-hmm.
literally, like, I was accepted into a Dr. Joe healthcare practitioner program also. And for those of you that don't know, I do anesthesia as well, right? I work about 1 day a week at this point. But so I was accepted into the healthcare practitioner program that he has. And one of the things that we have really been doing is he has a program called Neuro Change Solution. It's very similar to what you did, Ashley, with Blair back in the day with his mind models. I think it's more woo woo involved though. So it's kind of more up my alley and probably your alley as well. But it's really about looking at your thoughts and your feelings throughout the day and going, did that serve me? Did that not serve me? What can I actually replace? And so, one of the things that Dr. Joe talks about all the time is you may have thoughts that happen during the day, and it's okay that you had a negative thought or whatever, but how are you going to replace it when you notice that it's happening? Because you can't
Yeah.
just say, I want to stop this, I'm done with this. You actually have to replace it
Yeah.
with something else that's more high vibrational. So that's something I've really been working on inside of the Dr. Joe Healthcare Practitioner Program, where I've really been writing down. And that's the thing that's been different, really, is I've been in the past, I've been reviewing it in my head, but with the practitioner program, they're saying, hey, write it down. So I've been writing it down, and it's been like, oh, this is more interesting now. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So you're writing down the things that you've said and like how you're shifting them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting because there's so many synchronicities to all of it. Because like one of the first things I started doing, like I did a lot of personal development, but when I started rewiring my brain, it was with Dr. Caroline Leaf's
Yeah. And
Who's
it's
Pushed Off My
similar.
Brain book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really what she talks about is you journal, like what are the what ifs, should haves, if onlys, and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And you journal those all down and you brain dump them out. And then you write down how it should be, or not should be, because that's one of the words we
Yeah.
don't use.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so like she has a religious background of like, what does God want for you?
Right.
But it still applies.
Mhm.
And then the same idea with like biblically, like Jesus would say, like if you wipe a room clean of demons and then you don't fill it with something else, they're just going to come back,
Exactly.
right? And so
Exactly.
um it also applies to our habits and our lifestyles and kind of, so like this is all kind of going back to what we were talking about before. So I was talking about how I've been attracting people into my life that are saying, oh, you're my savior and you're my angel and like you've helped me so much and I'm so grateful for you. And then one little thing will happen and I'm the worst person in the world. And so it's like, so what am I doing that's causing this? So I am very quick to remove people from my life, like friendships, even family members. If I'm like, no, like this is not serving my highest good and this is only making my life harder, I'm very quick to move those people out. So those people were moved out and then a new one came in.
Hopped
And it's
in.
like, okay, so what needs to be shifted? What needs to be
Exactly.
filled to make it so these kind of people don't keep coming back in?
Right.
Because we're attracting them on some level for some reason. I don't know what that is right now, but I'm like, I want to attract the people that only are raising me, not are like, oh, I'm so grateful and thankful, and now I don't like you
Now I
because you're
hate
not
you.
pouring everything into me. So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
and that's exactly the thing that people miss. Like
Yeah.
you have to notice what is the thing that's not serving you. Is it a
Mm-hmm.
thought? Is it an action? Is it a feeling? Like look at these things, look at yourself and go, okay, what's not serving me? What can I
Mm-hmm.
replace instead? What can I do
Yeah.
differently? And like you said, like you can't clear out the demons and then have an empty place and expect that they won't come back. You have to fill it with something good.
Yeah.
And like you said, Caroline Leaf does this, Dr. Joe does this,
Yeah.
Blair did this.
Yeah.
It's the same concept. Like it really is, it's neuroscience at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly it. People always say, "Oh, well, that doesn't work for me," or "That won't work for me." And it's like, no, like there's certain things where yes, there's like diets, like that I understand. There's a lot of this doesn't work for me, but when it comes to your brain, our brain and energy, the laws of the universe, like there's no exceptions to the rule. Like there just isn't. So
Yeah. Yeah. And this might be advice you didn't want, but sorry, it's just the way it is. Like, I
yeah.
mean, I've seen a lot of people in neuroscience talk about this. Even like I'm friends with somebody on social media who is, I believe she's a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I can't remember, but she will comment on my stuff and I'll look at her stuff and it's like right on point. Like she's like, "Yeah, you got this." Like it's all
Mhm.
neuroscience. This is what's going on in our brains. And like you
Yeah.
said, like I will meet people that are like, "No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work
Yeah.
for me." And it's like, "Well, it kind of does. Have you tried it?" It's not easy. It
No.
sounds easy, but it's not an easy task to look at yourself and see what are the subconscious behaviors or things that I'm thinking. For me,
Mhm.
it's the things that I'm thinking. Like those are the ones that are harder for me to pick out. And so what I've started doing is if I start feeling something in my body, I start to notice that and go, what have I been thinking? Right now, in this
Mhm.
moment,
Yeah.
what have I been thinking? And that helps me kind of backtrack to, oh, that's what I
Mhm.
need to start working on. Okay, good to know. Thanks, body. So
Yeah.
it's like your brain and your body are always giving you signals to show you like this is what's going on in your life. Are you
Mhm.
willing to listen to it?
Yeah. And I think the hardest part is most of those things that are no longer serving us are things that helped us through some kind of trauma and some kind of like that's the whole like inner childhood trauma
Yeah.
idea is that we use these as coping mechanisms and fear is the number one driver for everyone. And so when we're a child and we're afraid of something and we learn a coping mechanism to protect ourselves and you've done that since you were 3 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old, whatever age it was, and you've ingrained it now for 30, 20, 50 years
Yeah.
and that's all you know. And usually things like that are passed down because we tend to act the same as the people that we surround ourselves with. So then you're acting like your family and you're attracting the same kind of friends that are like you. And so that's all you ever knew. And that all you ever knew is probably one of the worst things for people. Like it really is, because that's what allows you to live a life that's horrible and think it's normal.
Yeah.
And Yeah, so then you don't have that flashlight to even know this isn't normal. This isn't how I want to think to change my life. You have no concept of that. And then when you get around people that challenge that, you're afraid, so you're defensive.
Yes.
And so it's very, very difficult. You have to want it so bad to not let that fear overcome you, because you are that little child that doesn't want to be hurt anymore.
Right.
So,
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that they talk about inside of the Dr. Joe Healthcare Practitioner Program, like what you said. And a lot of times, one of the things that happens, and this is a program that's in our brain to keep us safe, when we start to do something different, counter to what was a normal for us,
mhm,
whether it's like feeling frustrated, angry, getting to whatever state of fear that we used to go to, and then we start inserting something else. It feels uncomfortable at first, and our
yeah,
body wants to resist
mhm,
because it wants to keep us safe. It's
yeah,
like, wait, that doesn't feel right. I shouldn't be doing that, because it
mhm,
wants to go back to the old feeling of frustration, anxiety, insert whatever you want there,
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
So that's one of the things that, like, really, like, I've heard this before, but being in the Dr. Joe Healthcare Practitioner Program and having them talk about it over and over again like that, it's like, yeah, it's so true. Because
mhm,
how many of us do get defensive, like you said, and we're like,
yeah,
no, that doesn't feel right. I don't think I should be doing this. Meh.
yeah,
Like, I mean,
yeah.
think
The
about it.
whole this doesn't feel good,
Yeah.
like, because it's not your normal. Like,
Right. This isn't what you're used to doing. And
yeah,
so it's going to take some time, play with it for a little while,
a
continue
long
to,
while.
yeah, continue to feel into the habit of it, create a habit around it.
Yeah.
And then if it's still not serving you after you've played into that habit for a while, then insert another habit that is going to serve you. But this
Well,
is habits.
yeah, I think that's where having someone is so important. Like,
Mm,
we kind of went through our spiritual awakening at the same time, and we could bounce things off and call each other out and all that kind of stuff. And that's why a lot of people like talk therapy, because
yeah,
they have a counselor that is kind of like a sounding board. And so when you don't have that sounding board, you think you're doing it and you feel all this resistance, and you really aren't doing it effectively.
right.
And so it's so important to follow some kind of structure, whether that's with someone or like meditating or journaling. That's why they're so effective, is
Yeah,
because you're following a system, and so you're not missing things, if that
yeah,
makes sense. But
yeah,
yeah, that's the core of self-sabotage for sure.
absolutely.
um and it's interesting because there's not very much diversity to it. Like, when you start really getting to know people and talking to people, like, there's a lot of people that have had lots of very different lifestyles, but at the end of the day, like, how we react as humans are very, very similar. Like, so a little bit about my life stuff that you know about, but no one else that might be listening does. We're in a court custody battle, dealing with my partner's ex. And then we just were renting out our RV to a lady that wasn't paying us, and ended up paying us at the very end. And talking, like, when I text these two people, two completely different people, completely different lives, I feel like I'm talking to the exact same person.
Mm,
And I was talking to my partner Derek last night about that. I'm like, this is like weird. And even too, like, we have a very um interesting relationship with his family right now, and I'm like, it feels the same. And it's, our traumas show up in very cookie cutter ways.
mm,
It's not there's no exceptions to the rule. There's no real like mass diversity. There's a lot of different things that happen to people at a young age. And there's like your friend that you healed this weekend, or last week I guess it was. She had a really shitty start to her life.
yeah,
And there's a lot of really horrible stories like that. And there's more than there's not, you know what I mean?
yeah,
But they all show up in very similar ways. And so once you learn how to pick it apart, it becomes very easy. But a lot of people like to stay in that place of being a victim, and that's where it really showed up. Like this lady that I rented to and let her live for free for almost 2 months. She was the victim, I was the bad guy.
Right.
And same with my partner's ex. Like she's the victim always. And it's like you're texting the exact same person, because if they get to be the victim, they get to live in their fear. They never have to change, and they never have to do anything more than the bare minimum, if that. So
And they can
yeah.
always blame someone else for all of their problems.
Oh yeah.
And the thing that's
Yes.
really sad to watch when people do that is that they never take ownership, and B, their life never changes. They're always going to
No.
keep creating the same traumas over and over and over. It's like Groundhog Day. Who wants to live like
Yeah.
that? No.
Especially like in a nightmare life, like you look
Yeah.
at these people and like you feel sorry for them just looking at them. You can see the misery, you can feel the trauma,
Yeah.
and you can't help them,
Mm-mm.
and oftentimes you don't even want to help them because I was thinking about this situation over here,
Right?
like there's moments where I'm like, I feel sorry for you, but the amount of trauma that you're causing me and my kids, I don't care,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like there's so much pain. And that's something too, with like Derek interacting with his mom, like it was like everything was his fault, his fault, his fault, his fault. And it's just like, holy cow, like you are just burying yourself in this like victim mentality, and you are so unhappy you're sick. And across the board, like this RV lady was in the hospital yesterday because she's so unhappy she's sick.
Mm.
um and then my partner's ex has had surgery because she had physical ailment. She's so unhappy she's sick. And like that is just the reality when you're so unhappy. And it's like self-hatred. Your body breaks
That's
down.
down.
It can't handle that.
Mhm.
But yeah, one of the first things I was ever taught when it comes to personal development, and I think it's very, very true, like this is the first thing you learn, is like it's like the responsibility line. So if you're ever shaming, justifying, or blaming, you're not taking responsibility. So as soon as you're doing any of those three things, you're living below the line.
Yeah, I love
So
that. I
yeah.
love that because that can be like a quick body check. Am I shaming, justifying, or blaming someone else? Quick
Yeah.
body check to be like, okay, am I on track? Am I off track? I don't know. Like, is there
Yeah.
something I actually need to change here? Is there some sort of pattern that I keep creating? Like, that's quick, and I love, love, love that. So,
Yeah, the justify one is the hard one for me, because it's like, life happens. We make mistakes, and it's like, okay, so is this like something that is working and it's just in that process? Am I
mhm.
justifying this, or is this, that's my hard one. So
Yeah, no, I get it. And like the thing that I've learned is to, and this is something that I've learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza testimonials of people that have healed themselves from like, oh my God, like some of the craziest things: cancer, being blind since they were a child, deaf since they were a child, like wild
Mhm.
stuff that people heal themselves from. And one of the things that they say over and over and over again in each of the testimonials is that they kept paying attention to the thoughts that they were having until they were exhausted of paying attention to the thoughts that they were having over and over
Yeah.
and over again, all day, every day, paying attention to what am I actually thinking and what am I inserting when I start
Mhm.
thinking that? Am I doing something to stop the thought? Because I know
Yeah.
for myself, I've thought the thought and then just went, oh, well, this is just the way it is. And so I'm just justifying it, right? Like instead of going, wait a minute, I can change that. I can reframe this. And instead
Yeah.
of saying, oh, that person is like, I can't believe they're saying that, they're the worst, I can look at them now and say, well, actually, are they the worst? Or are they really smart because they have a lot of They have a lot of experience under their belt. They are saying things from how they see the world. This is actually something I'm working on right now. Okay. That's the reason I'm saying this. There is someone in my life that I look at and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that they're saying this right now. But instead of thinking that, instead of allowing myself to continue down that path, I go, stop. I need to insert something else and I need to look at them in a different perspective. Take my
Mhm.
perspective and shift it. And then I can go, okay, and it is true. They have a lot of life experience. They know a lot about a lot of things. And so I can give them grace in thinking of them in that way and
Mhm.
inserting that thought instead of being like, oh my God, they're so freaking annoying.
Yeah, definitely. And it's definitely hard. Like there's some people where it's harder than others.
Absolutely.
So, but that's
Absolutely.
too for me. I'm just like I personally try to just remove those people from my life if I can, but
Yeah.
it's
And
not always
so,
possible.
yeah. So the question is what if instead you start to reframe and then you stop the pattern altogether and then stop attracting those kind of people? I don't know. Maybe it's
Exactly.
advice you didn't want, but there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm gonna show this. So you talked a little bit about how, oh, I can't remember how you said it, but this book ties into what you said, that you can heal your life, and it talks about all the different like ailments and like what's causing them. I don't know, something you said made me be like, oh, that book needs to be brought up. Because yeah, the way we think and the way we act and the way we like respond to things, we're manifesting them on a physical level. And if you don't know where those catch-ups are, you can kind of use that book as a tool to shine the light. So
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we should talk about Louise Hay and how to heal your life next time because that
mhm.
is like something completely to unpack for
Yes,
sure. So, but
yes.
with that, I think I want to call TMI advice you didn't want a wrap for today
Definitely.
because, yeah, I feel like we went through a lot of stuff and oh my God. Such good stuff from Dr. Joe Dispenza, neuroscience, how to change your life, how to heal your life, all the stuff. So,
Yes.
so guys, thanks for joining us. Really, really want to keep this going. So if you're enjoying this, share with other people, connect with us on social media, and let us know what you want to hear about also. So with
Yeah,
that, I'm going to call
definitely.
it a wrap.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
Bye.